everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarks podcast. And today we're really excited to have another resident of Hope Valley with us today. We are talking with Johannah Newmarch today. And thank you so much, Johannah, for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
Yes, we're so excited. We've had Loretta on. So now we've had the full FloMo on the podcast.
Love it. Loretta's a queen. I'm so glad she
Yes.
got to talk to you. Great.
Yeah, so we'd like to start our interviews by asking our guests to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of how you got inspired to become an actor.
Yeah. Okay. So I started my performing career as a dancer. I was relatively highly trained at one point in my life, a classical ballerina.
Wow.
I pursued that. Yeah, I pursued that quite seriously. All of my extracurricular time and energy went to that. And I went to Canada has two sort of prestigious ballet schools here, the Royal Winnipeg Ballet and the National. And I went to a summer session at the Royal Winnipeg, and that was great. And I learned a lot, but that was the first time I think maybe the seed got planted where I was sort of watching the career track kind of ahead of me. I was around 12 or 13 at that time, and I kind of could see the older girls ahead of me. And even as a young person, I was like, oh goodness, there's a lot of pressure put on dancers, just the, body type. They have to be so extraordinarily thin. They have to put out this massive amount of energy, while eating very little, because to maintain that kind of physique for a lot of people is challenging. So even as a young person, I remember going, oh, I don't know about that. I was fortunate enough to, develop gradually. But, I saw some of my poor friends who, as sometimes young women do, they, over a summer or over a year, their bodies changed dramatically. And then they were, sort of questioning, their ability to be a dancer, which just seems so cruel and unfair, even though they're very talented, for something to be as dependent on just, a physique. Anyway,
totally out of your control.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. So how cruel and unfair, that's a big topic. We could spend days on that one alone, but moving right along. So I did keep doing that, but every year after that, my passion sort of started waning, and I was like, goodness, because the career possibilities for dancers are actually quite limited, no matter how much you love it. And I just started to go, gosh, you're also your longevity, let's be honest, much like a professional athlete or Olympian, your career is sort of fading once you're 40. And I was like, well, I'd kind of like to have a career that I could maybe keep doing for a little longer than that. So I sorry, this is a long-winded answer. I did like performing. I really enjoyed doing that in front of people and, making people smile or escape their troubles for a short time with a nice performance. And so I thought, gosh, I'll give acting a go. So around 15, 16, I started to transition into that. And I was bitten by the bug, and here we are.
You remember your first role that you ever got?
I do actually. It's etched into my mind. I think it was 1987. And so I guess depending on the time of year, I would have been either 15 or 16 or so then. And that the Canadian, the network at that time, Vancouver was sort of just coming into its, beginning stages of being a film and television, what has become a global powerhouse for film and television. But we were in the early days of that in the 80s. And, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, we affectionately refer to here as the CBC, a lot of the Canadian programming was done by them. I should say the limited amount of Canadian programming we had was done by them. And so it was I think it was an anthology series, like sort of standalone movies. I think it was called Family Pictures or something. And I remember my character name, and she was Donna Mackin. And I was like, I was a teenager, and she was going through some trials and tribulations. Yeah, I think it was a half-hour episode. Sort of, I guess, kind of like the modern day equivalent of a family-friendly MOW sort of family show. But yeah, it was pretty cute.
You remember being really nervous, or were you pretty fearless?
It's so funny. I don't know where I had my confidence. I've become less confident as the years have gone by. I think there's something about the ignorance, the blissful ignorance of youth. I actually remember feeling quite self-possessed at that time. I think only because I didn't know any better not to.
Right.
So I feel like, much like sort of, many artists or painters, have said, we have this certain freedom when we're young to just, create or produce, paintings or performances. And I think I fell into that little bit of a category. I was just, living my best life, having a great time. And I think a couple of years later, I probably went, oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am.
You probably see some of that in these kids on One Calls the Heart. So that
Oh,
that
yeah.
confidence.
What's so interesting is they're also professional, though. I don't think I was nearly as professional as they were, because I kind of just, anyway, they're very grown up and very mature and very professional. I don't think I was half as together as those lovely kids are.
Yeah. So your first role for Hallmark was you were in the first Mrs. Miracle movie. Is that right?
What's so funny is, yes, you're so right. It was so long ago. And it was such a great role. It was quite a dramatic, quite a heavy, sad, my character's backstory was a little bit of a sad one. And I got to work with, I play the sister of a wonderful Canadian actress called Erin Carpleck. Yeah. So that was pretty special. And as you know, that particular movie was not the original Mrs. Miracle. I think it was sort of a spin-off. So unfortunately I didn't have any scenes with Doris. Oh goodness.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have any scenes with her, and she's sort of the iconic, Mrs. Miracle. So I think I didn't have any scenes with her. I know that. And I think that her story was sort of tangential to, I think her story was like the genesis of ours, but I don't think she was specifically in it, if that makes sense. It was sort of the Mrs. Miracle world that we were in, but I don't think her character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But she's such a special lady. And I was delighted to have a chance to do that role.
So you were in the Garage Sale Mysteries. I'm
Yes.
trying to remember. So Sally was your part. I'm trying to remember what was Sally in that show?
Yes. So, as you recall, Lori Loughlin's character was an amateur sleuth, and she was sort of always getting under the skin to great comedic effect of the town's police chief, who was played by Kevin O'Grady, who was my husband. So he was Detective Linwood, and I was his wife, Mrs. Linwood. And so and over the various episodes, our families, he and I as a couple, and and Lori and Steve Basic as a couple kind of became friends. So there's all these sort of fun scenes where I'm at their house.
Okay, that's right.
And I'm kind of giving him a hard time because we kind of came up. Kevin O'Grady, who's a wonderful comedic actor, we kind of naturally developed this sort of slight sort of comedic tinge to our relationship. So and he's this very strapping large man, and I'm sort of this beside him. The visual sight gag was I was sort of this petite woman beside him, and I would sort of give him the gears, like affectionate sort of like as couples do, you kind of hector each other, but kind of in a fun, playful way, and we had a great time doing that. So
I really liked the Garage Sale Mysteries. It's been a while since I've seen any of them. That's why
they're delightful. They're
fuzzy,
wonderful.
but they were the first series that I really got into because I wasn't that into the mysteries, and it wasn't until Garage Sale Mysteries that I started to get into it more, because I really liked the cast. Sarah Strange, I really loved her character.
Sarah Strange
was so good.
Wonderful. And she's a lovely, lovely woman. Yeah, great character.
The family dynamic I just thought was a really fun.
Yes. Oh, that's so nice to hear. I love it when I hear people. I get a chance to talk to people who really love a show. That's so great. I'm so glad that was your introduction to the mystery world of Hallmark.
Yeah, because I don't know, some of the other ones were so predictable and just not a little bit harder for me to get into. Sure. But that one I enjoyed. Like her involvement in the mysteries wasn't like as crazy as some of the series, Yes. You got like morning show chefs and things like that. It's a little harder for me.
Yeah, I hear you. They're going out on the edge there, but I hear you.
Now we got hairdressers and solving crime, matchmakers.
I hear you. Yeah, this was a little bit more in a sort of a zone of a realistic zone.
Yeah, definitely. So then you were also, I think, you were the murderer in the Martha's Vineyard, right?
I was. Yes, actually, I've been two villainous murders in the Hallmark world. I was the murderer in the Murder She Baked, the plum pudding one. I was the murderer there, and then in Martha's Vineyard, my husband and I, we were up to no good. Yeah.
That has to be fun to play a murderer.
Oh, so much fun. It's really fun to play the villain. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously playing the heroes and the protagonist is always, any role is a great role, but there is something fun about playing the villain. I'm not going to lie. And as I age, I think there's something, I don't know, as I'm aging, apparently my villainess is coming out. So
Well, in these movies are, I think, more fun when they lean into the camp a little bit. I mean, I was just saying I want it to be realistic, but I don't know. There has to be a blending of the two.
Well, there's a fine line because, we come to the Hallmark world because we don't want to watch HBO. We want something a little gentler, but we do want something that's sort of still somewhat believable. But as you say, it's that fine line between playful and kind of slightly winking while still sort of maintaining a semblance of reality. Yeah.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Well, so let's talk One Calls the Heart. Okay. So when you first started, did you know that you were going to be for the long haul, or was it just going to be a guest role? Or
well, here's the thing. I don't think any of us really had any concept of what this would become. So I was hired as one of the, from episode 1, the harrowing first season where the women, the mine disaster happens and we all, we lose so many of our menfolk, husbands, and et cetera in the mine disaster. So I think we knew that even though we didn't have all of the episodes laid out in front of us, I think we had a sense that given that we were, a part of the town, that we would, be there for probably the first season, to a greater or lesser degree. It's not always clear when you get hired exactly how big a character arc you're going to have, but I think we had a sense that given that the storyline was about the town and the women specifically, I think we all had a sense that we were going to be around for a handful of episodes. None of us had any sense that this was going to turn into such a phenomenon. So,
yeah. What do you think has made it last as long as it has?
I think it's really a combination of, it's community, right? It's this story about this group of people in this time and place and the trials and tribulations that they go through. So I think the audience is able to, invest in the characters, that they kind of learn about a character, learn to love a character, and then go on a journey with them. And I think that's really the wonderful thing about the episodic format, as opposed to a standalone feature film, where you have to tell a whole story in an hour and a half, like this long format of being able to have, season after season. I think so, the wonderful thing that Jeanette Oak did was she came up with these wonderful characters, wrote these wonderful characters that, obviously our writers have taken and run with. These interesting, compelling, deep characters that the audience is really able to connect with and want to come back year after year to see what happens and go on these wonderful journeys and experiences and growth with these characters in this community. And I think that's one of the things that we've been able to offer, is this sense of community, this sort of wonderful ensemble of characters that people find compelling. And it's like somewhere you get to come to. The world is full of challenges and heavy stuff. We live in challenging times. Personally, politically, globally, there's a lot of issues that we're all embedded in that can be very heavy and hard to handle. And so I think having a place that you can kind of escape to, where things are a little bit simpler, a little bit more straightforward, that you get to kind of have your dose of happiness and sweetness, is something that people crave right now,
Yeah, I think that you need that escapism.
Totally.
Just relax. Yeah.
Totally. And especially these last couple of years. I mean, we're at peak stress, so
right.
I mean, while this show's always been appealing to lots of people, I think it's become even more appealing to maybe a new group of viewers who are like, I've had enough of the world. I just want something sweet to escape to.
Yeah, I think so. So how did FloMo evolve? Was it something that like you two were just kind of put together randomly, and then and then people liked it, and so then they wrote it more, or
do you even know? It's a great question. I mean, I have my theory. So, as that first season, the season was what it was, and then it kind of, the series has sort of, in this, its aesthetic, it has sort of grown and changed. And I think that maybe our characters had a couple scenes together, and maybe they kind of noticed that there was sort of a chemistry there. So then I think they kind of just kept giving us these little moments. And I think we were able, especially in the early seasons, to provide sort of a little bit of a, comedic relief as the kind of town busybodies or whatever, So yeah, I mean, we just sort of naturally played off of each other, and the characters were written in a way that we could sort of lean into that and bring our own kind of natural whatever actor flair to that. So I think it was sort of an organic evolution, and we're so grateful because they threw us together a few times, and the magic, whatever that kind of ineffable magic is that between the charisma of two characters, we kind of really sparked off each other, and here we are.
Yeah, and there's like a whole FloMo army. I mean, it's amazing.
I can't tell you what joy that brings me as an actor to have people who are rooting for you and enjoy your work and care about your journey. It's just delightful.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have a favorite Molly moment?
Oh goodness, that's really a tough one. I think I have a favorite. I have a favorite Molly sort of dramatic moment, and then I have a couple favorite Molly comedic moments, and you can shut me down whenever you've had enough.
No, let's hear it.
The dramatic one, I have to say, I think it's just because it was such a touching moment for me as an actor. When Rosaline goes missing in episode 3 of season 1, and then we look for her, and then we find her. That moment with Mamie, where I turn around and Elizabeth's carrying her, and I run towards her and I grab her. That was special for me, because I'd actually never, as an actor, had a chance to do quite a meaningful dramatic moment with a younger actor. And Mamie Laverock, she was actually nominated for a Leo for that performance. It's extraordinary to me when child actors are good, that they're, again, I think it comes back to that sort of sense of genuine naturalism that some of them seem to possess, which is so extraordinary, because being on a film set can be quite stressful and challenging. But yeah, she just had so much depth and heart, and I just had to look into her little face, and boom, it was all there. So that was a special dramatic moment for me for Molly. And then sort of the comedic ones would definitely have to be I think season 8 for Molly was peak Molly playfulness, which was really fun. And we've actually had some of that already in season 9, where I flirting with Bill, that was pretty fun. The moment, the $23 well spent dress line was pretty, and I have to thank the writer for that line, because that's a great line. So that kind of sassy Molly is pretty fun. And then this season I've had a chance to carry that along, where I get all in a tizzy about misunderstanding the writing in Elizabeth's book, and then Molly kind of giving Bill a heart, wanting to be interested in forensics and kind of trying to find her. I think I'm really enjoying the sort of comedic flair that Molly has these last few seasons.
That must be fun to kind of play off with Jack Wagner.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seems like a funny guy.
He's delightful. He's iconic, and it's so much fun. I've almost no acting required. You just say the lines, and he's we have a great relationship. As colleagues on set. So you just you just lean into that, and it so makes it kind of easy. And I should emphasize again, from another dramatic moment that was so touching was obviously the moment when I got to give Florence the dress, and she got to thank me for the friendship. That was obviously incredibly touching. Yeah.
I love that wedding. That was one of my favorite When Concert moments. It was so good.
I know. I thought Loretta and Hrothgar were just they were beautiful, really touching.
Yeah. I hope we get a Molly wedding.
Well, would that be something?
Yeah.
There's been lots of ideas tabled. I honestly, and I hand on my heart, I honestly don't know what's down the pipe, but there's lots of exciting possibilities. So
yeah. So did you have an opinion about Nathan or Lucas?
Oh, I'm honestly the worst. And I'm not just trying to, be politically safe here. I am a Libra, and I am annoyingly a Libra. I am, the scales. I'm always one of those people that's like, well, I see this side, and then I also see this side, and people are like, oh, Johannah, just choose a side. And I'm like, I kind of see value in both sides anyway. But so actually, and I think the fun thing is because we all know each other as people, as we get to hang out on set as we're making the show. And so much of the, the positive qualities of Lucas and Nathan, are both kind of in their personalities, I think you've seen enough interviews with Kevin McGarry to see that he's kind of like, playful and loves a good joke, right?
Yeah.
And Chris does as well, but he's also got this sort of very sort of gentlemanly, sort of dignified, elegant quality. Anyway, it's so fun to see them bring their personalities to their roles. No surprise, of course. So I'm the worst because I love them both as actors, and I think their characters are both wonderful for so many different reasons. And I guess for me, I know it was, quite fraught for a lot of people because people had very strong feelings about that, and I understand that, and I love the passion that the Hearties have, which obviously extends into their very strong feelings about certain storylines. But I guess for me, because she had been with a Mountie, and the character of Jack was so beloved, that I guess for me, when she chose Lucas, I was like, it's sort of something different,
That's how I felt too.
Yeah.
Because I've said it a million times, but I'm team good TV is my team.
Exactly.
And I just feel like Lucas will make better television. Not that there's anything wrong with Nathan. I just think it's going to stretch Elizabeth more as a character.
There we go.
Make her grow more.
That's actually so nice to hear you say that, because that's exactly how I felt. I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting and so, full of possible storylines, So exactly. That's exact good TV. Let's just have good TV.
Team good TV.
Yeah. And, as you can all see, Lucas isn't going Nathan isn't going anywhere. He's got a, a wonderful arc this season. So
yeah, it's been so fun having Meisu on this season.
Yes.
I've really been enjoying her and Amanda.
Yeah, she's delightful.
Mm-hmm. And so when you were quarantined and then they brought back for the for season 8, what was that like, kind of going back to shooting?
Honestly, it was so lovely because, as that first lockdown was, it was very disconcerting and surreal, because we're, obviously anybody who was alive in 19 had gone through it, but I think there was probably 5 people on Earth who experienced the last pandemic. So, and the world is a completely different place since that time. So I think all of us were just sort of like, anybody who's of a certain age was cognizant of the concept of a pandemic, but it was very very dramatic experience for all of us. So I think being able to come out of isolation, or relative isolation, however we had all been was it sheltering in place was the phrase, with our families, our limited family groups, or however we all chose to handle our lockdowns. It was actually just so lovely to be like, oh, hello everybody, other human beings, hello, and we were so fortunate because we started shooting, right when I think, the world had realized that, while this was very, very serious, that there probably was a way that we could navigate through it, with all the protocols in place. And we managed, a huge shout out to our crew and our production designers and all of the people who made sure that we came back as safely as possible. We managed to get through that first season, with no positive, like I'm 90% sure that we didn't have a single positive case that entire first.
That's impressive.
Very impressive. Yeah. So, obviously we were very strict and it worked. The protocols worked. So we were so grateful that we were able to do that, amidst very challenging circumstances. And then by the time that we were able to start shooting season 9, the vaccine had just become widely available in Canada. So we had that added level of protection. So we were actually our timing just kind of happened in between the worst peaks. So we actually managed to wrap just as the Delta wave was really rising. So we were able to be done by the time that kind of took over. So our timing was incredibly fortunate in all possible ways. And then we, any protocols are only as good as people's willingness to follow them. And, and we had a really great team ethos, and people were all really pulling together to try and make it work for everybody. And I was always so grateful for that. So,
well, I think people wanted to be working. So
exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to get sick.
Exactly. So the stakes are high. It's like, hey, we all want to keep doing what we love doing. So let's all do everything right, to the extent that you can. Obviously, nothing's completely in your control when there's a tiny virus flying through the air, but we did our very best.
Mm-hmm. Well, you must have had fun with the whole scenes with you being upset with Elizabeth about her book. That was really funny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so, the writing is so good, and they've given us these delightful characters to just bring to life. And so, just marching down the street with Florence and Ned and reading out of my book and being all like in the, uppity about, being misunderstood. And then I actually, honestly, that one line where Bill comes up to Molly at the bar and says, "Oh, you look lovely." And I go, "Oh, really? Not like a Trump, a tart or a harlot or
a redheaded tart? Wasn't that it?
Yeah. That was my favorite line. Molly and Florence just shows up and kind of drags me, like almost like a cartoon where you like that whoosh, where the person's gone in a little stream of smoke. Oh, that was funny.
I kind of wish it hadn't been Julie and that it actually had been Molly, because I think that would have been really funny. But
yeah, I know. Yeah. I agree. That actually would have been juicy. But then I think Molly couldn't have had that moment in the store where she had to eat humble pie and excuse herself. And Florence had to be like, "Oh, I was rude. I was on your side there." And then she has to be like, "Excuse me, goodbye." Yeah.
Do you find it sometimes hard to get up that like Molly manic energy, or is that sort of your personality?
Well, I think you can see from talking to me here that I'm a pretty animated person. So, honestly, it's not that hard for me. I wish I could say I was like incredibly zen and peaceful all the time, but no, it's not hard for me at all.
That's good. That's good.
I try not to be too neurotic, but I can be pretty big. I can be pretty high energy. So
yeah. So do you have, without, I guess, spoilers or anything, but was there a favorite moment of shooting season 9 or a favorite memory?
Season 9, like, we had some pretty challenging weather during season 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, good. We had a heat dome. We had just come off of a heat dome, and then the heat dome was terrifying. You probably heard about it in the States. We had the hottest temperature, I think, anywhere in the civilized, aside from, I don't know, like, our temperature in a place called Lytton, BC, which is, not that far away from me, was the highest temperature on Earth pretty much. And, whole towns burned down. It was pretty terrifying. And we're known for having a temperate climate. So we had to endure that. And you can imagine those period costumes in extreme heat are pretty gross. Some of the cast wears corsets. I can't even fathom wearing a corset in that heat. And then we had a bomb cyclone. So we had some very, very extreme, strange weather. Our cast and crew are such champions, and we really, our crew especially puts up with. I will have to give the crew a shout out, because, we get to shoot our scenes, and that's, sure, that's not fun in the elements, but then we get to run back into the room that's got the heaters and the coats, whereas the crew is out there, all the time. They don't get that kind of respite. So our crew,
I know they were trying to film a lot more outside because of COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
But if the weather was terrible, then
that's just it. Hard. That's exactly it. Yeah, it's challenging all around. Sorry, I know I'm digressing from your point was the favorite moment. Well, I can't give away too much, but Florence and Molly actually have a really special kind of a emotional moment coming up a little bit later in the season that kind of ties back to some elements earlier in earlier seasons of our show. So that was quite special, I think, for Loretta and I's characters to kind of bond over, and anybody who's been a fan of the show since the beginning will kind of understand that we don't say a lot about the thing that happens, but there's like this sort of understood, unspoken depth of shared emotion about this particular thing that happens, which I think it was quite nice for Loretta and I to be able to share that as actors, because we've been on this 9-season journey together, and it kind of tied back to season 1. So anyway, that was special.
Well, I've seen a little bit of that this season already, because of with Gowan's character being, kind of going back to that with Smith and everybody being there. And so that's, I liked seeing that, because they did kind of abandon I miss the sort of episodic nature of the early part of the show, where you'd have citizen A that has a problem, and then Elizabeth usually helps he or she solve that problem by the end of the episode. Yes. I kind of miss that structure, because we don't really get that anymore very often. But I think that they're bringing back at least some of those sort of plot lines. It's good, I think.
I agree. I think you're probably quite accurate. That's probably what they're trying to do. But yeah, I agree. And those characters like Gowan and Molly and Florence, who have been there, for the whole time, they have this sort of, I think, shared history that I think sometimes because, as you understand, with a 45-minute show and a wonderful, big cast of interesting characters, they can only devote so much time to things. And so, I think maybe some of the viewers that have joined the show, maybe in later seasons, maybe haven't really had a chance to kind of understand really that there is so much shared history between characters like Gowan and Florence and Molly. So I think it's quite special that they're touching on that.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking of the characters that have been there from the very beginning, obviously Elizabeth, and then you and Florence and Bill.
Yep. Bill wasn't there for the second season. So Gowan
wasn't? I forgot.
No, that. Gowan, Molly, and Florence. Pascal's character came second season. Yeah, and so as the cast has sort of been grown over the years, so we're sort of some of the OG, the original folks that were there. So we kind of have that shared collective experience about the sort of real origins of Hope Valley and what we all went through to get there.
And I guess some of the kids have been there from the beginning.
Yes. Some of the oh my god, thank you. So of course,
Opal.
Some of the children have been there since day one. Yeah, Opal, exactly. Robert wasn't there season one. Some of the other children joined in later seasons.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That's cool. Well, that's good to hear. I'll look forward to that.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Heartie, or Hallmarkie in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Question is actually about your Cinderella movie. I was just going to ask if it was fun to play the Wicked Stepmother. It's got to be a blast.
I mean, such an iconic character, right? So of course you're a little bit nervous because you're like, well, people have their own associations with that character. So I think that was what I appreciated about Michelle Johnson Sellers, the writer-director of the very talented and lovely writer-director of that franchise. She's done, quite a few of the more recent Cinderella story films. I think she's done 3 at least. She definitely gave the character Deirdre a specific kind of her own particular flair. So I just got to not worry too much about the history of the character and just embrace her her ridiculousness that she had. My character was a comedic villain, which is so much more fun because genuinely being a nasty villain, that's a whole other archetype, right?
Yeah.
Whereas my character was nasty because she was selfish and stupid, really. And so we got to, we got to have a lot of fun with the comedic side of her, kind of, Real Housewives of wherever.
Yeah. I miss dishy villains because
there we go.
It's the trend now. Every villain has to have a tragic backstory and you have to feel empathy for them. And I'm like, no, I just miss your Maleficents and your,
yes. We're just bad. Okay. We just are. Yeah. We're just not good people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's exactly what my character was just selfish and stupid and vain, and cruel, really. So yeah. No, thank you for asking about her. That's definitely one of my all-time, top handful of favorite characters for sure.
All right. So we like to end our interviews with some fun, silly questions. So the first one is, what is the best ice cream flavor?
Oh, okay. This is going to sound kind of weird, but for some of those who don't have as much international cuisine on their doorstep, but Vancouver is known for having a phenomenal range of extraordinary cuisine from all over the world. So since I was young, I was a very big fan of what we have called green tea ice cream, and it's green tea ice cream, and it is delicious.
Okay, good. What's your favorite color?
Oh, emerald green.
Ah, perfect. Very on brand for Hallmark.
Right, with the redhead. Yeah, you got it.
Okay. What music are you into?
Oh goodness, I have incredibly diverse tastes, but at the moment I'm really enjoying a gentleman called Gregory Alan Isikoff, and it's almost sort of like folk country, indie folk country rock. Fantastic. Can't say enough good things about him.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. What is your go-to date night food? And lately we've been saying, what is your DoorDash order?
Right. Exactly. Pandemic vibes. I love pad thai. I love Thai food, and I love pad thai. I try not to eat it too often because it's very high carb. But I do love a great plate of pad thai, and Vancouver has some superb Thai restaurants. So I definitely say yes to a DoorDash pad thai. Date night food. We have a restaurant in my neighborhood that specializes in really beautiful thin crust, like wood oven pizzas. So I mean, who doesn't love a nice thin crust pizza and a nice glass of red wine? That would be my go-to date night meal. Yeah, there you go.
Good,
I mean, I've got 700 answers depending on my mood. But,
well, what is your favorite go-to date night activity if you're going out and doing something?
I'm the worst, because I think also the pandemic is informing this answer. Going out seems like when did we ever do that? So I would say my pandemic date night would definitely be like, ordering in and some fantastic series or movie, because we're all, we all have our home theaters all set up. You can sit in your jogging pants in bed and watch a great movie. So that's what
binge watch Bridgerton and
exactly. Yeah. So binge watch something and have a great snack. That would be my pandemic date night. But going out, pre-pandemic, we have this fantastic cafe on Cambie Street in Vancouver called the Kino Cafe, and once or twice a week they do flamenco dancing. And so they have a wonderful flamenco guitar and these incredible women on stage stomping and castanets, and it's very intimate and it's quite close. It's like a little wine bar. And so they're right there, and it's very European feeling, and they're incredibly talented and passionate and fun. And that's just a really great night out.
That sounds fun. So what do you prefer, dogs or cats?
Oh, again, I'm the worst. I'm a Libra. I love them both for completely different reasons. I cannot choose. I adore them both.
Okay. Beaches or mountains?
Oh, again, I live in Vancouver. I have beaches and mountains. They're both amazing. If I had to, oh gosh. Okay, I have to answer that one with the temperature. If it's warm, I'll say a beach. If it's Canada, I'll say a mountain.
Good. Would you rather be in a fancy dress or sweats?
I love clothes, so I'm going to say as comfortable as sweatpants are, I'll take a fancy dress.
Yeah. And I think we're all tired of sweats.
Exactly. We've had enough of that for a lifetime, literally a lifetime. Yeah, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I get dressed up to go grocery shopping just because I'm excited to wear something other than sweatpants. Yeah.
Well, it's symbolic. It means you're leaving the house.
Thank you. Exactly. Amen. Yeah.
Yes. All right. What's your favorite holiday to celebrate?
Oh, okay. Again, I'm the worst. I grew up in a family, and I bless my mother for this. Any excuse to celebrate. So like Valentine's Day, we decorate the house and wrap presents for each other. Halloween was the whole thing. Easter, like any excuse to have a party and wrap presents. And so we celebrated everything in my house. Now, obviously, Christmas has a special place in everybody's heart, and I am obsessed with Christmas. And all these people who are like, oh, Christmas really? I'm like, yes, Christmas really, yes. I just love it. I love everything about it. But for me, it's mostly about the lights, just the beautiful twinkly lights, and just an excuse to just be sucky and mushy and all about love and making people feel included and generosity and spirit. I just love it.
To get you in a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Yes.
How has that not happened?
Rachel, as soon as we're done this, I want you to get on the phone to Hallmark and say, people, Johannah needs a Hallmark Christmas movie because she loves Christmas.
Yeah, I have them on speed dial. So
can you please? Thank you so much.
Look, this is ridiculous.
Agree.
It is crazy. You need to be. You
tell them the FloMo Christmas all the way. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes. How fun would that be?
Right? We
should do that.
Absolutely.
That would be really fun. Because you've been in the one called the Heart Christmas movies, but those don't count.
Yes. Like we need a whole FloMo Christmas episode.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
There was one last year which was all about these Christmas light people. I forget I can't even think of what it was called. But you two would have been hilarious in that.
Thank you. Exactly. Right. Can you imagine FloMo trying to hang up Christmas lights?
Yeah, that would have been so funny.
Absolutely. Here for it.
Yes, we'll put that out into the if you're listening, Hallmark, which I know you do, make it happen.
Just make it happen, people. You're welcome. We can tell you right now, you're welcome.
All right. Well, last question. What is your favorite Hallmark or romantic movie?
Oh, honestly, this is such, everybody on earth, I'm sure, says this. And, Hallmark just has some wonderful examples, but I am a sucker for The Notebook. I just think The Notebook is just a beautiful movie. And if you don't cry during that movie, you have no soul. So The Notebook.
The Weeper, you like, huh? Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. You did it. You answered all the questions.
I did it. Thank you for enduring my rambling.
No, I love it. It was so great to meet you. It's been somebody I've wanted to have you on for a long time, but I don't know. It just hasn't happened. So I'm so glad we made it work. And
it happened. I love it. It's so fun to be here. Thank you so much for being interested.
And if you want to, do you want to share your social media and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. Sure. Goodness. I am, my Twitter is Jo Newmarch, just JONEWMARCH, just how it sounds, month of March, New March. And same with Instagram, Johannah Newmarch. The only tricky thing about my name is it has a sneaky little silent H on the end of it. So Johannah, Newmarch. So JOHANNAH. NEWMARCH. I know it's a bit of a mouthful. So Johannah Newmarch for Instagram, and same for Facebook, Johannah Newmarch. There you go.
We'll put all of that in the description, so everybody make sure you're following Johannah.
Perfect.
Yes, and you can make sure you're following the podcast on Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. 5 stars, it helps us so much. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store, and you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews. So please check that out. And thanks so much again. And
my pleasure.
We'll have you back.
Thank you so much for all your support of When Calls the Heart and all of the actors. We really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for listening. You're the absolute best. Lots of love.
Yes. Say hi to everybody for us.
Yes. Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.